Hello, hello, and welcome to Critical Conversations. Y'all, I am so excited for today's chat. I just got off with an extraordinary client call, and I want to talk a little bit about that. I'm just pulling up my notes here. I want to talk a little bit about that and share with you why this work is so transformative and powerful. Not always the most fun, but why the work is worth it. And then what we're going to dive into is sharing with you my unique approach. So I feel like within the coaching industry, there are different types of coaches out there. There's different types of people. They have different goals. The way that they work with their clients is all very unique and different. And so I want to talk to you a little bit about my methodology, where that came from, how I created it, and then how I teach it to my clients so that they can ultimately do this practice on their own. So, a big piece of what we do in a coaching agreement, as a one-on-one client, is we really are identifying a new way of being. And so we're cultivating that together. And ultimately, my goal is for my clients to be able to step into this role and do it on their own outside of me. So, I love to work with my clients, on 3 months is really kind of a minimum. But most people want to stick with it for at least a year, if not 2. It kind of just depends upon how much accountability they need. But accountability is one of the largest pieces within the coaching agreement. So let's talk about it. So first of all, I just have to share with you and celebrate this client because I think that it's so important for us to feel validated and seen. And we do that when we're vulnerable and sharing our stories. It's kind of like, I remember when I had my first miscarriage, there was a lot of shame and guilt. And the more vulnerable and open I got about that, the more I realized I wasn't alone. And so I think that oftentimes we carry this shame and this guilt. And, Brene Brown talks a lot about vulnerability. And I agree with a lot of what Brene says. I believe that vulnerability is going to be the key that unlocks so much of what we feel like we're missing within ourselves and within society. So, I'm sharing, I'm talking, I'm speaking, I try to be as authentic and real as I can. I'm not a perfect human. I've made a lot of mistakes in growing my coaching business. I think there's a lot of clients I would love to, give a giant hug to and say, sorry, I wasn't the better version of me. But, ultimately, when I look back, I also think of those people and I think, well, they came into my life at that point. They were my client. I was their coach for a reason. And I hope that, even though some of the ways in which I worked with people is so different now than it was back then, I think that there's a level of growth and appreciation. And, I release all these narratives and these stories about me doing it wrong or me being bad or making a bad choice. I release all of those stories and I really trust and thank the universe. I thank God, because I wouldn't be here doing what I'm doing now had I not done what I did. And I think about that too, in the regards to like me having a miscarriage and even the relationship with my mother. Like my mother is not who I wanted her to be, but she is who she is. And because of that, I am who I am and I get to be the human I am today. And so I think that I've really come through some deep shit in navigating being my authentic self. So if you're a past client who's like, fuck you, Karissa, I just want to say I love you so much. I'm sorry. Thank you for being part of my journey. And I hope that you can find peace and love and gratitude for the time that we did spend together. I think that, to past relationships, I'm thinking back about a lot of different dynamics that I've had in my life, a lot of, employee client or not employee, employer relationships, a lot of partnerships, a lot of, collaborative, collective, work things that I've done, especially, back in my dance team days. I'm sorry, I fucked up. I was not the best version of myself. And, those pieces are part of my story. They're part of my path. They are the things that helped me become who I am today, which I believe is the most aligned, authentic version of who I am meant to be, which I know I'm meant to be a peaceful, loving, truthful speaking person. It's taken me a long fucking time to get here. And I've hurt a lot of people along the way. I've made some decisions that I know have had negative impacts, and I'm here to own that shit. And I think that that's part of what makes me coaching my clients differently, is because I'm willing to go deep with them and be really vulnerable in the mess of this life and this life experience. And that is where the change, 555, as I said, that is where the change, ultimately the transformation, comes from. And that's where we get to step into the better versions of ourselves. I've been listening to this book. It's absolutely phenomenal. Y'all should, I'm actually done with it now. You should read it. You should do it. It's called The Body Is Not an Apology. And I love how things always happen when you need them to happen. And this is why I love the work. And this is how I've kind of cultivated this methodology, is through my own learning experiences and opening myself up to be vulnerable, to share some of these, nitty gritty things. I've really allowed myself to find the lessons in the nitty gritty. And I've learned that I really have to soften my edges even more than I think. I think I've been saying, you got to soften your edges for like fucking years. And here I am being like, Karissa, you need to soften your edges still to this day, 5 years into this work. But The Body Is Not an Apology by Sonia Renee. Oh, fuck, I forgot her last name. I can pull it up. Absolutely phenomenal book, you guys. I like to read physical books. Sonia Renee Taylor, The Body Is Not an Apology. It's about radical self-love. And it's so interesting because this client I want to share with you about, it's a self-love story. And what this book has opened up for me is to really fully fucking let go of judgment. Like fully let go of judgment, and to really like see my mom in a new way and find the respect and gratitude for, she wasn't what I thought I needed, but actually she was what I needed, because without that exact experience, I wouldn't be who I am today. And there are choices I made along that path to redefine it, to see it that way. I think there's multiple ways that you could take that situation and you could make it mean something completely different. Same with a miscarriage, right? But it's like, if you are willing to do the work and go deep and understand and see it differently, then it gets to be different for you. I'm going to say that again. If you're willing to go into the experience and unpack it, you get to see it differently. And most often than not, you can find the beauty in it, even though it's hard, it's hurtful, it's painful. But The Body Is Not an Apology is such a radical book, and it's about self-love, but it's also just, I think everyone needs to read it, because it's about us realizing that we're just all so different. And if we could just chill the fuck out, and recognize that we're all imperfect. We all have fucking cellulite somewhere. We all have fat somewhere. We all have acne at some point. We all, bleed out at some point. We all say the wrong thing at the wrong time. We all make bad decisions. We all leave, messy situations. We have bad breakups. We have bad friendships, breakups. We have bad co-working environments. Like, we make mistakes. And if we can soften our edges and be like, bro, you made a mistake, but and it hurts and this sucks and fuck you a little bit. But also like, I make mistakes too. Like, I don't know, like that feels so different in my body. And so, past clients, past people, there's 1 million people that in my journal I've written an apology to. There's the Hawaiian Ho'opono. See, I don't remember anything and I'm going to butcher it, but there's a meditation and it's a practice and it's actually something I offer a lot to clients, and I've journaled on it. This is something I use. You know, this is what makes me unique as a coach is I do it first. And if I do it and I have an experience with it, whether that experience was the right thing or the wrong thing for me, good or bad, like trying to remove those good, bad, right, wrong, I go first. I do it first. So this Ho'opono meditation is also something that can translate into journaling. And the premise of it is finding peace with whatever it is. And so the mantra or the words that are repeated in the meditation are, thank you, I love you, I forgive you, I'm sorry. And you can put them in any order you want. There might be a very specific order, but essentially you can take that same 4 sentences and you can translate it into journal prompts. And so in my life, there are all these dynamic situations that have happened where, you know, I wish I could go back and do it differently. And I would in hindsight, right? I think we all can resonate with that, where we're like, I wish I would be able to go back and do this differently. But we can't. And so how do we find peace with that? Well, you find peace with that by looking at it differently. And you get to do that. You have the opportunity to look at it differently. And so that is where I use this meditation and ability to move it from a meditation where you're in your mind working subconsciously into reality 3D. I'm going to write this down. And so it's taking these people, places, situations, and it's writing them down and it's saying, I love you. I'm sorry. Thank you. I forgive you. Like it's taking all of that, and it's so cathartic. It's so healing. And I've done this for almost every single thing that has been a situation, a place. You know, I've done it with money, right? Like I've had a fucked up relationship with money, and I've done it with money. Money, I am sorry that I did not respect you. I forgive you for not being here more abundantly my whole life, right? Like, I love you. Thank you. Hell yeah, right? Okay, so I hope that's a beneficial thing. But what makes me unique is this ARC approach and how I bring it into my clients. And I'm sharing very vulnerably with you guys because I believe that vulnerability is the key to healing. And so a lot of times my clients come to me and they really need to feel validated. And I think you feel validated through vulnerability. So this client came, she was $65,000 roughly in debt. In 2 months, she went to $11,000 in debt. How did she do this? She did this through cultivating awareness with the allowance for accountability, which is my A. She strengthened the ability to receive through her ability to reflect, unlocking the ability for her to create with deeper connection. Okay? The ARC approach. It fucking works. You have to get aware. You have to understand what's working and what's not working. The way that you align to your desired future is through this methodology. And I know it works because I've used it again and again and again, and I use it on myself again and again and again. If you don't know what's working, you cannot redesign your life. You just can't. So what does all this mean? Well, it means that there's hope for you wherever you're at. So this client had not really sat down to understand her situation. So the first thing is that awareness. You have to draw awareness to what's working and what's not working. And so it was like, yeah, I'm in debt. I need help getting out of debt. There are tactical things that we can do, like looking at your credit card interest rates, to transferring balances, to calling your credit card company and being like, yo, what hardships do you offer? Did you guys know that like 90% of credit card companies is if you take the time to pick up the phone and call them, they will lower your interest rate. Did you know that? Yeah, pick up the phone, take the time, draw your awareness to the thing, and then get curious about what's possible now that you have more information. So that awareness is the first step. So like, she's in debt, she's in over her skis, she's got, a toxic employee, she's got her and her husband are kind of quarreling because she's in fight or flight panic mode all the time because her business is drawing so much of her awareness. So it's like, we also had to get really clear on like, well, where are you at in your work life? Like what are you spending your time doing? And what do you want to be spending your time doing? So it's like awareness. You got to get in the weeds. You got to get curious about how you're showing up. And the moment you can unlock that and you can get really, really curious and be like, is this how I want to be living? Is this the relationship I want to have with money? Is this how I want my business to work? Do I want to have this toxic employee environment? The more that you get into the weeds, you start to understand that it can look differently. So that is where you begin the work with me. And that's the A in my ARC approach. I think that if you are living unconsciously, you're not aware. You have no idea what's happening, why it's happening, who it's happening for. And so you have to get really curious about your life, and you have to pay attention to your life and the decisions you're making and the mindset you have. So a lot of the work, people come, she comes and she's like, I gotta close down my business. I gotta do this. I gotta do this. And it's like, okay, great. Those things are all amazing. Is that what you want? Well, I don't know, because I've never slowed down enough to get really curious about, is this what I want? And so your awareness is key. If you're just living in panic, flight, or flight mode, you're not able to get that foresight. You can't see the opportunities that exist within all the weeds, right? This is why grief and trauma are so heavy and hard to overcome, but you can overcome them. There's been a lot of trauma and heartbreak in my own personal life. I think that most people, maybe if you're newer to my world, you don't know my story. But my story is pretty it's pretty generic, but it's radical. It talks a lot about like being so fucking broke that we're 3 months behind on our mortgage, not knowing if we're going to be able to pay 20 employees or if we're going to lose our house, and going broke to pay our employees. Right. And it's, it's changing that whole narrative to being in a different position where we have so much abundance and freedom and choice. But it's like, we had to get curious about how did we get to where we're at? And then how do we want to create? How do we want to be different? Can we find the opportunity? This is that growth mindset. So when you have this mindset shift and you're able to see things from a different perspective, you can find the gratitude, you can find the appreciation. That's why I can look back at these situations in my life, these relationships that ended, poorly. And I can be like, but I have so much gratitude and appreciation for that now, because I got out of it. I drew my awareness to it. I got into it. And then I said, well, how could I see this differently? I got curious about the different perspectives and the different opportunities and the lessons, right? So I think the more that you are able to be vulnerable, the better your awareness gets and the more perspectives become available. Okay. So that's kind of the A. This same client is like, fucked up mindset. Nothing ever works out for me. There's never enough time. There's these old narratives that we have to change. So this goes into the R, where we have to reflect in our awareness. What are the stories we're clinging to? What are the narratives we're holding on to? Are we perpetuating what we don't want because our mindset is so twisted and we're not approaching it with a solution mindset or a growth mindset or an abundance mindset? And it's really hard to get from that point of things aren't working out for me to things are working out for me. And that is why I think I'm unique in the work that I do with clients, is because my approach is all about chewable bite-sized steps that are sustainable, that you can actually have a level of success with. And that, I think, is key. I think there's an irresponsibility when you just say, well, just think positive thoughts, like Mary fucking Poppins. Like, no, it doesn't work that way. You got to get into it. You got to get into the weeds, and then you got to figure out why the weeds are there. You got to excavate all that shit. It can be quick, or it can take more time. Everyone's experience is unique, but we want to reflect so that we can receive what we want. But you can't receive what you want if you keep perpetuating the thing that you don't want, right? If you keep carrying the bricks in your backpack that are negative, that you don't want anymore, well, then you got to fucking get aware that you're carrying these backpacks. And you do that by reflecting and drawing the awareness to, wow, I guess I am always saying that it's really hard, or this is really rough, or that I'm not capable of making money, or that I can't be good with money. I guess I am always saying that, like, my business won't work, or that I just, like, my husband's an idiot and I always just am going to argue with him. Like, if I'm constantly saying that or thinking that, that's actually what I'm creating. I'm solidifying it. It's like writing it in red ink versus like, ooh, wait a minute, that's not a thought I want to carry with me. Let me pause, because I'm super fucking aware that I'm changing a way of being. I'm going to be accountable to this change, and I'm going to pause, and I'm going to say, whoa, whoa, whoa. Actually, I may have not been good with money in the past, but I am working on being better with money. Like, we find the squishy, juicy spot where you can start to, like, feel the, ooh, that shift. Like, I don't know, you guys feel it energetically? Like, I feel it in my body, where I'm just like, yeah, like, I just softened that edge a little bit. Because you can't go from I'm not good with money to I'm amazing with money. Like, that is like, no. You're going to overwhelm your nervous system. It's not sustainable. So everything that I do in my coaching business is about getting you to your end goal, which is I am fucking good with money, but we have to soften the edges, where I'm learning how to respect money. I'm learning to appreciate money. I'm being more aware of my spending habits. Like, we soften the edges. We get into the weeds about what it is that isn't working of the thing, right? So that you go to the C, which is your creation and your connection, right? You have to unlock, but you gotta get in the weeds, and you can't unlock it until you're in there, right? Like, I'm using this terminology of weeds, but let's just think about it for a second. You have a garden, right? And you want to plant something, right? Let's just say you want to plant strawberries. So you want to plant strawberries in your garden, but the area where you want to plant these strawberries, or the available space to plant the strawberries, is just fucking, like, it's got a ton of weeds in there. If I don't get in there, I can't plant the strawberries. Sure, I could dig up a small patch. I could put my strawberry plant in there. It may or may not do well. It's like a 50-50 chance. But it is more sustainable to excavate all the weeds, to get in there with your hands and fully pull out the root of the weed, the problem, and to move it out completely, and then plant your strawberries. And this is the piece that I think people are missing, especially when it comes to manifesting. You can't bypass the shit. You might have quick success. A lot of people do. I did early in my personal development journey. I bypassed a lot of emotions, a lot of feelings, and I just jumped to that first initial, like, fuck yeah, let's go. I'm fucking awesome with money. I make millions of dollars every day. And I had some success, but it was not sustainable, and I crashed. And what happens when you do that is it's harder to get back up because you start to doubt everything that you had done. And so it's almost as if the weeds have like multiplied, like they made babies while you were in success, and you weren't paying attention to all the babies that the weeds were making because you didn't fucking get aware. You didn't pay attention. So you have to be paying attention constantly. And this is why the ARC approach exists, because as soon as you're done creating and connecting, you go back. You go back to the awareness and you stay accountable to it. And then you keep working through it again, and you get receptive and you reflect, and then you create, and then you connect, and then you go back to the awareness. And you apply this in every facet of your life, whether it's money, relationships, what you want to manifest in a partner, whether it's healing partners, whether it's, a parent relationship. It is all about you being willing to get a little bit dirty and to understand that it's a practice, right? I mean, this is like why diet culture gets a lot of shame, because it's often not sustainable. But what's sustainable is having tools in your toolkit that you can pull back out and be like, fuck, I was totally living unconsciously and I was not paying attention. I got to start paying attention again. Okay, let me go back to the tools that Karissa taught me. The ARC approach. Let me get back into the weeds. And so I think that personal development, coaching, business coaching, life coaching, any type, it has to be sustainable. Otherwise, you are doing your clients a disservice. And that is where I would love to go back and do coaching differently with past clients. I would love for them to come back to me and give me the opportunity to help them build something a little bit more sustainable. Not saying that they didn't figure it out on their own. They're fucking powerful, amazing beings. I'm sure they're rocking the shit out of it. But I know now that it has to be sustainable. And for it to be sustainable, it has to be bite-sized, chewable pieces that make sense, that don't overwhelm the nervous system, that feel like, okay, I can do a little bit every day. And those things stack and compound. And over time, that's where we're really cultivating the bigger transformation. That's why I created this method. That's why I'm so addicted to this work. I really believe in the sustainability of, you don't just have to always be working with a coach to feel better. You actually get to work with somebody who aligns with you, who you connect with, who you have a relationship with for a period of time. And then you get to walk away with tools that you can come back to. I mean, I know I did a podcast recording with Morgan. I think it's coming out right before this one comes out. And she says the same things. It's like, what are the tools that I gave you 10 months ago when we started our work together? Go back to your tools, like start over. And I think that's the thing, is we're always afraid of starting over. It feels like a big lift, but it's not a big lift if you do it in a sustainable way, if you do it in a practical way that makes sense for your life. That's why I love one-on-one coaching, because for me to bring a group of women together who are all very unique and individual in the way that they're living their lives. Some of them are working out of the house. Some of them are working in the house. Some of them have 1 kid. Some of them have 5 kids. Some of their kids are babies still breastfeeding, while others are driving and totally independent. And it's really important to cultivate practices that are individualized so that they can be sustainable. It is not sustainable for me to tell the breastfeeding mother to meditate for 15 minutes every day, right? Whereas the woman who has a teenage kid, who's driving, who's independent, who doesn't, needs a lot less of her, she's probably going to have a lot more space to meditate for 15 minutes because she can guarantee that no one's going to need her, right? For the most part. So sustainable practices in coaching means that you meet your client where they're at. And that's why I love one-on-one coaching so much. You know, in the beginning, I really loved group coaching, because I think that there is power in the vulnerability of coming together. I still agree with that. That's why I have the hub. You know, I really do agree that when you get into a room with like-minded thinkers, you're gonna like, you're going to be able to expand with those thinkers in a similar expansion, right? Like when I connect with other entrepreneurs, it's like I latch on to their expansions and I see my own expansion because I feel validated, I feel seen, I feel heard, I feel like I'm getting fresh ideas from somebody who's in the similar trenches as me. Whereas I'm less motivated to have business conversations with people who are just, you know, doing a regular job where they really aren't thinking about the growth or the marketing or the strategy, right? And they have a very amazing role, but it's very specified and it doesn't really change, and it doesn't involve looking at the P&L and making some of those bigger, harder decisions that I think a lot of solo entrepreneurs have to make. So being in the right space definitely helps, but being in a space where you are seen for the uniqueness that is you and someone is working with you to create a plan that works for you. So back to this client, she doesn't have the capacity to do what some of my other clients need to do, right? She's in a very busy season in her business. It's a seasonal business. She's got to fucking hustle. So like that whole like work-life balance thing isn't as pretty or clean for her. There's not really a stopping point for her. There are middle ground things we can do, and we have been. And it takes being really intentional and creative and organized about those things. But if I put her in the same group program as somebody else, I don't think she would have the same success because her lifestyle, her business, and where she's at in her season is so radically different. That's why I fucking love one-on-one coaching. That's why I have lowered my rates, because I want it to be approachable. And group coaching often is the less expensive option, but I don't think that you need to be going broke to receive the support that a coach can offer you. And I want to be more within reach for people. So that's kind of like how I got to where I am. You know, that's kind of where my focus is. That's where, you know, the foreseeable future of my business is kind of in that one-on-one space. And I have my group, The Hub, for business entrepreneurs. I really did build it for my one-on-one clients to come together so that they were connected. So it's like you get the best of both worlds, right? You get the one-on-one time with me, but then you also get to jump into this space where you're immersed with other entrepreneurs or high-level executives who get to help you do your business a little better. You know, it's super educational. We bring in experts every month to teach and lead, and there's some epic people in the lineup. You know, so it's just, I don't know. I think I fucking cracked a code, y'all. I'm stoked about it too. It's working. It's fun. I love it. I just, you know, cannot even imagine how I got here. Like, I know how I got here, but like when I look back at like everything I've done and how it has all transpired, I'm like, wow. Okay, but here we are. So yeah, so that is, you know, my unique methodology. That's my approach. This is the work that I love to do with my clients. I do have a retreat coming up this November for those of you who are looking for just sheer fucking R&R, you guys. So I've been to this place before. It's got its most, I mean, oof, you guys. It's I spent a lot of time and energy trying to find somewhere different that had all the elements that this place has, and I could not find it, not in a reasonable price point. So what is this retreat? This retreat is November 7th through 10th. You're going to come in to New York. You're going to drive roughly 2 hours from one of the major international airports, be it LaGuardia or JFK. Upstate New York, we're going to go to an Ayurvedic spa where you are going to have beautifully curated vegan, vegetarian, Ayurvedic food prepared for you. You don't have to think about food. I don't know about you guys, but like that is like the number one mundane thing I hate about adulting is having to think about what's for dinner, what's for lunch, what's for breakfast. And then you get to do it all again tomorrow. So I'm super excited about that. So you're going to come on the 7th. You're going to have dinner as a community with me. We're going to do some restorative yoga practices, some breathing exercises. We're going to do meditation. We're going to have journaling. You're going to sleep. You're going to rest. You're going to chill the fuck out. And 90% of the time, you will just wear a robe or yoga attire. Lounge wear. Okay. Don't even bring a hair dryer. Don't bring a straightener. Don't bother. You don't need it. Just fucking chill zone. No makeup, whatever. I mean, you can do you. If you want to bring all that shit, go for it. But like, have full permission to just like detox. Okay. You can turn off all your digital devices, or you can, binge watch some dirty show that you've been dying to watch. You can read. We're going to have the ability to sleep in. And every day that you are there, you're going to get a spa treatment. 3 spa treatments. And if you want more, you can add more on. We're going to do that November 7th through the 10th, and it's going to be amazing. It's a beautiful upstate Catskill area. There's some beautiful nature nearby. We'll do some nature walks. You can participate in all the activities, or you can take breaks. This is all about resetting your nervous system, reconnecting to yourself, definitely pampering and spoiling yourself, and then heading home to hustle for the holidays. So this could be your early birthday present, your early Christmas or New Year's present to yourself. But I'm really excited. The early bird pricing for this retreat will end, I think, September 1st. So if you are listening to this and you want to get in on that epic retreat, please reach out to me, hello@karissadean.com, or you can send me a DM on Instagram. And I would love to get you signed up. There are, this is the other piece that I fucking love. Everyone gets a king bed. So you can have your own room, king bed with your own bathroom, or you can bring your sister, your best friend. You can bring your mom, your cousin, your aunt, your uncle, whoever. Actually, you can't bring your uncle. Sorry. This is women only. I apologize. And you could share a room. So you can have 2 king beds with a shared bathroom. Dude, it's going to be epic. And I should rephrase. If your uncle wants to come and be immersed in feminine energy, like that's fine with me. It just might be a little awkward for them. So, I really am open to however you identify if you want to come, but there's going to be a lot of feminine energy. So you definitely have to have a heart for tapping into some feminine energetics, meditation, some woo-woo talk. Yeah. So however you identify, you're welcome. Come. I really don't care. It just might be awkward for you if you're super masculine and you don't want to be surrounded by a bunch of feminine energetics. So anyways, you guys, I'm super excited for this retreat. It's going to be absolutely special. It's going to be the 3rd retreat that I've 4th retreat that I've ever hosted. Wow. And it will be the 2nd time at this particular venue. For those of you who have been in my world long enough, you probably know where I'm talking about and you don't want to miss it. All right. I think that's it for Critical Conversations today. I hope this has been insightful for you, helpful, supportive. Take that ARC approach, put it into practice. If you want a one-on-one with me, you can do so. I don't require contracts, so we can start with one, see how you like it, keep going. I do work on a sliding scale, so there are different price points based on where you're at. Really easy, hello@karissadean.com, or you can DM me on Instagram. I'll look forward to connecting with you soon. Thank you for being here, and I hope you guys all have the most epic day.